Alright, hello there everyone. Eric Padden here. And on this video we're going to be discussing, is there really a silver shortage going on out there? Many of us are hearing more and more these days that there is an actual shortage of physical silver. And I think what's really giving some credibility to that thought is that you might be aware when the CFTC was basically kind of looking into, reluctantly after years, finally looking into the rumors that you had JP Morgan Chase and I think HSBC were the main offenders, as well as some other banks. But basically the banks were all in cahoots, conspiring to keep the precious metals value down. And what happened was that finally got exposed. If you recall, it was Jeffrey Christian who under oath basically said, yes, the precious metals are like other instruments, T-bills, T-bonds, and basically they traded 100 times the underlying physical. And so that was a real eye-opener to a lot of people, that they actually traded 100 times to the underlying physical. So in other words, what that meant was, for every one real physical ounce of silver, you had 100 of them out there being purchased, bought and sold, traded through the ETFs, mainly the SLV when it comes to silver, GLD when it comes to gold. And so what that was doing was you had literally millions, actually hundreds of millions of ounces that were flooding the markets to keep the prices down of silver that didn't even exist. And so now you've got more and more people getting wind of this and are asking for physical silver. And as that happens, you're now finding, wow, all of a sudden now you've got the US Mint no longer printing silver eagles. You've got the Canadian Mint no longer printing maple leaves. When I get on to order my silver from different sites, I used to order, you go on Bullion Direct or Gainesville or some of them I found that gave you the better deals before I got into a wholesale club more recently. But I was checking into some of the different sites out there, and they all say delayed, where I used to see, all different types of coins. I'd see everything from, the Philharmonic or whatever they call those, the Austrian coins. I'd see the Libertads, the Mexican versions. I'd see the Australians, and of course the Chinese pandas, and you had basically a nice little menu of coins. Well, now basically it just says silver eagle delayed. That's it. And so there's no more silver available out there when it comes to physical silver. If you look at all the little, local coin shops, they're telling you it's getting real scarce out there. And even though spot might be 39, 40 bucks, most of those will try and sell you. You can get rounds for maybe a buck or two over spot, and I think spot today was 38 and change, 38.60 or something like that last time I checked. And so theoretically, you could buy for less than 40 bucks these coins. However, in reality, you're not. People are not letting these things go for less than 42, 43, 45 dollars, because the physical demand is there, and people want to hold physical silver, physical gold. They don't want the paper anymore. And so I think if you combine this recent awareness and people now demanding more and more of the physical silver, along with just the basic supply and demand that's out there, you might be aware that historically, if you look over the last, say, 5,000 years, you've always maintained anywhere from a 12 to 1 to 15 to 1 ratio as far as the value of silver to gold. In other words, it would take, say, 12 to 15 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. And that usually reflected somewhat the physical ratio above ground at that time. Now, interestingly enough, if you look at our situation in recent times, in 1950, you had basically 10 billion ounces of silver above ground. And at that time, 1950, you only had about 1 billion ounces of gold. And so it made sense. You could say logically, well, yeah, it makes sense that gold is worth more than silver. It's more rare. And what happened since then is today, we've gone from that 10 billion ounces of silver that we had as a surplus in 1950 to where, through industrial usage and keeping the price of silver down, we're now looking at maybe 1 billion ounces. Often you'll hear estimates as low as 600-700 million ounces of silver above ground right now. And the demand is higher than ever before. We never had the industrial uses that we do today. We never had the Chinese in a position where citizens wanted to buy, actual silver and gold. You put the demand, all these, developing nations wanting silver and gold, along with the industrial demand, and you've got more demand than ever before. And the supply has not kept up since 1991. Each and every year since 1991, we've been eating into that surplus that I was talking about. And so the years of the surplus silver are now gone. Today, we're looking at less than 1 billion ounces. And interestingly enough, if you compare that to gold, remember that 1 billion ounces we had of gold in 1950? Because gold is actually hoarded away, all the gold that's ever been mined is still out there somewhere. We actually today, we sit at about 7 billion ounces of gold. Compare that to the less than a billion ounces of silver. And yet the value today, as I make this video in early April of 2011, is about 38 to 1 silver. It takes 38 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. The physical reality on the planet at this moment, 7 billion ounces of gold, billion ounces of silver. What's wrong with that picture? So absolutely there is a shortage out there of physical silver, and absolutely there's a lot of upside as far as the value of silver. And so I've been taking and putting my paper money into silver for years, and I'm doing it more and more and more. Just today I was going to pitch in another 2,500. My father-in-law's got another 2,500, and we're gonna pitch in and get a few more rolls each, whatever we can get. And every time I was hoping I would have a little bit of a drop, because I like to buy on the drops, and I typically will buy a few rolls. Well, I waited all last week. I didn't get my drop. I heard that the third largest silver mine in the world is actually on strike, going on their second week now. And so I think we broke the 38 plateau. I mean, it could easily jump to 39, who knows, well above 40, and then once it does that, it could go to 50. I mean, I think silver is going to be a bargain even at 100. So anyway, as far as the topic of this video, is there a shortage? I do believe the evidence backs up that there is a physical shortage. Now, I hope eventually what happens as silver does go up in value is that you're going to find it'll make it more profitable to mine it. Right now, there's not too many silver mines out there. Most of the silver that we actually end up with is more of a byproduct of mining for copper and zinc and these other metals, and then they'll kind of get the silver as a byproduct. But if silver does go to 2, 3, 500 an ounce, you'll see a lot more mining, and eventually we'll be able to balance out that supply and demand again. But I think in the short term, we have a phenomenal opportunity. I mean, if you look at the historic highs, silver is one of the few metals out there that is still 65% off of its all-time high. I mean, it's an absolute bargain. And so a lot of my friends or family are saying, gee, it's sure gone up a lot lately. Maybe, it's going to come back down. I don't think so. I think the fundamentals in silver are that there's going to continue to be an increase in the demand, more and more uses than ever before, and the supply is simply not going to be able to keep up in the short term. So get a hold of physical silver. I think that's the best thing you can do to protect your wealth. A lot of people are very concerned about the dollar continuing to be devalued. I'm one of those, and I think that you should take your paper money and convert it to silver while you still have some value in that paper money, because it's being printed faster than ever before. And as they flood the market with more and more of these, paper dollars, nowadays that are really not even physical form, they just key them in. But basically they're flooding the world with more and more dollars. And of course that devalues the dollars that we're all holding on to. So if you leave your money in your checking account, saving account, 401k, it's going, become worth less and worth less until eventually it's worthless. All debt-based currencies are eventually ending in, where they're worth maybe the paper you could throw it in the fireplace to warm up, but you're not going to buy anything with it. And so make that move while you can. Go ahead, and if you want to give me a call, you can reach me at 858-705-2487, and we can talk about either buying rolls or even a monster box at wholesale. I've got connections where I can get you the absolute best rates out there. If you'd rather just do a slow, steady connection, you got to start somewhere. We can ship you out a nice MS69 coin on auto ship every month. And these collectible coins, they have the advantage that they're non-declarable, and basically you're going to get one of those shipped out to you every month. And non-declarable would mean if there ever was a situation where they wanted to have a gold or silver backed currency, which a lot of people think we're leaning toward, what would happen is they could actually demand that you give back your bullion. Of course, they buy it from you, I should say, at fair market value. Hopefully by then you're looking at $500 silver, because if it's not at least $500, they ain't gonna find mine, But anyway, bottom line, non-declarable is a nice option, because that way you can legally hold on to that, even if there was a confiscation. So give me a call, 858-705-2487. You can also go to my blog, which is isncoinsbusiness.com, and if you get on isncoinsbusiness.com, or just click the link if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find they've got a lot of good articles on there and videos, and you can educate yourself on a lot of different aspects of what's going on with the economy right now, and silver, precious metals in general. So once again, my name is Eric Patton. I thank you very much for your time, and get yourself some physical silver. Have a great day. I'll catch up with you on the next video.